City Council has approved the 2024 budget with a tax levy increase of more than 5%. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Thunder Bay's 2024 tax levy hike has been tentatively approved at 5.93% before growth and 5.48% after.
City Council is now set to ratify the budget on Monday. Vasilos Bellos is following the process. And Vasilos, were all the councillors happy with the increase?
No, Riley, they weren't. A number of those around the table spoke about the hike being too high, stressing challenges it'll cause residents. Along with this, there was fear higher taxes will deter people from moving to Thunder Bay and prevent future growth. The 2024 budget is now just one vote away from implementation. The spending plan was tentatively approved Wednesday night, but not before council agreed to a $250,000 increase to the police budget. Those dollars will cover an increase in purchase services, though some, such as Councillor Andrew Folds, wasn't happy about the spending.
Can't continue to give them money and think we are solving the problem.
Folds stressed his appreciation for city police, but said spending will continue to increase unless the root causes of crime are addressed.
I'm not happy with the guns and gangs that seems to be increasing. I'm not happy with the increases in drug dealing and drug usage that's happening.
2014, when I first came on council, emergency services took up 32% of our entire budget, and now we're at 38% this year.
Council settled on a tax levy hike of 5.93% before growth and 5.48% after. That hits the initial target of 5.5% after growth, though many around the table felt there was a missed opportunity to further reduce the burden on taxpayers.
I don't think we should congratulate ourselves necessarily for reaching that target or getting slightly under it. I'm not that satisfied with it. I think there's work to do in reining sometimes service expectation.
Prior to the approval, Mayor Ken Boshkoff spoke to why he voted down nearly every additional ask in the budget, saying higher taxes make Thunder Bay less competitive.
Making it easy for people who want to compete with us to not live in the city and move to our neighbors. So those are the realities that we are facing.
The meeting also saw a warning regarding future infrastructure projects in the city. That came from City Manager Norm Gale, who said future financial decisions will be difficult when there's not enough money for every community ask.
A list of city priorities that adds up to almost $300 million. The city does not have enough money to pay for everything that is on our wish list.
Also during the meeting, Councillor Michael Zucino put forward a motion to increase adult golf user fees at city-owned courses. That decision was deferred to a future council meeting. With the tentative approval, the budget's now set to be ratified on Monday. Vasilos Bellos, TBT News.
Thunder Bay's deputy police chief says he's witnessed it himself. Gun crimes in the city have nearly tripled in the past decade.
The latest numbers from Stats Canada show the number of crimes involving guns in this city rose 286% since 2012. Ryan Hughes says that's put a lot of stress on the officers. Jonathan Wilson reports.
This shootout in Westfort last spring was a shocking example of the rise in gun violence in Thunder Bay. More than 20 rounds of gunfire were exchanged between the two parties, but no one was hurt and the suspects were all eventually arrested. According to Stats Canada, the rate of gun-related crime in Thunder Bay has risen from 11.2 incidents per 100,000 people in 2012 to 27.3 in 2021. It then rose to 32.1 in 2022. The last year's statistics are available. Deputy Police Chief Ryan Hughes has worked in policing for over 25 years, and he's seen the spike in gun crimes here firsthand.
Yeah, we've gone from no guns in the community to our officers attending calls where they have to be very conscious about the possibility of a gun being at any call they attend now. 2012, there was hardly any gun calls, but with the drug trade increasing in Thunder Bay and out-of-town people coming into Thunder Bay because of the high prices, guns follow.
Thunder Bay Police responded to 7 homicides last year, and 2 of them involved firearms as the weapon used. There were also 9 attempted murders, with 6 of those involving guns.
In the last couple of years, there's been more gun-related homicides and more attempted homicides with firearms. It's very demanding on our officers. The increase in homicides, which causes a lot more work to be done by our specialty units.
Hughes says a large portion of the handguns coming into Thunder Bay originated in the United States, and many have their serial numbers removed. The drug trade tends to be the main contributor to these illegal guns in the city. The Police Intelligence Unit confiscated 25 firearms in 2022. Police and municipal leaders have been calling on upper levels of government to provide city police with more guns and gangs funding in recent years to try to stem the tide of increased gun violence.
The funding is very important. It's for training. It's for more officers and staff within the police service, as well as funding for our community partners that can help out situations prior to it getting to the police.
Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
With Nan communities reeling from an overwhelming number of deaths recently, health, and more pointedly mental health, dominated the discussion at the annual Winter Chiefs Assembly here in Thunder Bay.
The three-day conference wrapped up this afternoon. Lee Noonan has the story.
Several communities across Anishinaabe Nation are in mourning following a spate of deaths over the course of the winter. First Nations like Kitchener-Mekw-Sib-Ninewuk, where 9 people died in the span of a month. That's 1 in every 200 people in the small, tight-knit community. Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler says First Nations mental health and healthcare systems need a complete overhaul.
There needs to be immediate intervention that needs to happen now to support our communities, but at the same time working towards that longer transformation work that needs to happen.
Youth mental health is particularly high among the concerns raised by the chiefs at the Assembly. Fiddler says they've been in a perpetual crisis for at least 9 years, exacerbated by COVID, and calls the government response over those years inadequate.
I know there's been some progress that has been made. For example, we get programs and services, for example, Choose Life. But a lot of these programs and services do not come with capital or infrastructure. Now, we actually need to build buildings in our communities, for example, safe spaces for children and youth, so that they can operate 24/7, so that if a child's in distress, that they can actually go to a place that somebody will look after them.
Deputy Grand Chief Bobby Narcisse says following local leadership and respecting the diversity of Nan communities will be key in developing solutions that are proactive.
Looking at ways to really involve our culture, our languages, to look at ways to really overcome some of these challenges and also build resiliency within our youth, our children, our youth and families.
Treaty rights are another important issue on the table, particularly with cases like the $95 billion lawsuit that 10 Treaty 9 First Nations launched against the federal government in April. As other Treaty 9 First Nations consider joining the suit, Fiddler says Nan's role is to help keep their chiefs well informed. He adds that climate change is also a big issue facing the Assembly.
You know, while we're enjoying the warm weather, we know that it's not good for the environment, it's not good for our winter roads, those communities that still rely on the winter roads to transport their goods, their materials.
Coming up in the near future, Nan's holding a youth gathering here in Thunder Bay and sending a delegation to Edmonton for the National Assembly of Remote Communities, February 21st to the 24th. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Ontario is introducing mandatory Black history learning in grade 7, 8, and 10 history classes.
Education Minister Stephen Lecce made that announcement today. CTV's Siobhan Morris has the details.
It's an addition to the Ontario curriculum the government says is long overdue, one welcomed with wide smiles and cheers.
The energy in the room is amazing. So beginning in September 2025, students in grade 7, 8, and 10 history classes will learn about the contribution and achievements of Black communities in Canada.
Learning for students in grade 7 and 8 will stretch back to before Confederation.
From explorer Matthew da Costa helping to literally discover parts of our country with Samuel de Champlain in 1604, to the Black soldiers who literally died in the defense of what is now Canada from a U.S. invasion in the War of 1812.
10th graders will focus on the time after World War II, including the leadership of Canada's first Black MP and Ontario Lieutenant Governor Lincoln Alexander.
My grandfather was always a huge advocate for education, and I think that this is just a further component of that.
Government officials and community leaders who've been driving this change hope it builds bridges.
We are much more alike than we are different as we get to know each other and we find out. And so this announcement today, I believe, is going to be refreshing for young people who don't feel that they are reflected in society.
And learning can lead to better understanding.
Incidents of racism, discrimination, and bias will be lessened because people are really learning about each other in a very productive way.
The government will spend the next year consulting historians, educators, and Black leaders on the shape of the new curriculum.
In reading materials, we don't often see authors from the Black Canadian context or diaspora.
There's hope that this new focus will be inspiring to Black students.
They will see the courage, the strength, the perseverance of our trailblazers and know that they can too also build a future that is better for all Ontarians and welcomes everyone.
That was CTV's Siobhan Morris reporting. Chambers of Commerce in Ontario say business confidence in the economy is declining again. The 8th annual Ontario Economic Report was released today, showing some concerning trends. Local Chamber President Charlotte Robinson says the provincial report echoes what she's been hearing from her members here in Thunder Bay. The report indicates rising costs of living and interest rates have caused business owners' confidence in the economy to plunge from 29% at the height of the pandemic to just 13% now. That's the lowest business confidence level in the 8 years the Ontario Chamber has been monitoring it. Robinson explains why that confidence continues to fall.
I really think that speaks to the economic climate that we're in. You know, high inflation, input costs are going up for business. There's a lot of uncertainty around consumer spending and where interest rates are going. And, you know, things are just generally a little bit on the bumpy side. And so businesses are feeling, you know, less confident in the future of the economy in Ontario.
Despite the levels being historically low, Northern Ontario's confidence was actually higher than that of Ontario as a whole. Robinson believes that's a reflection of the environment here, with so much investment and focus on mining, as well as other growth opportunities.
Thunder Bay's ice racing season could be in jeopardy, as the ice level on Mission Bay is too thin for the cars to race on.
Officials with the Autosport Club say they'll do more tests over the next few days before deciding if the series will be completely canceled. Jessica Clement has more.
This abnormal winter has been causing problems for a number of seasonal outdoor activities, including a sport popular with the car community, ice racing. Over the past 2 weeks, the Thunder Bay Autosport Club has had to postpone its opening races due to the ice not being thick enough. And now members are worried if they'll be able to have a season at all. Club President Gary Adamko says the group met Wednesday night to decide if they're going to go through with the season.
So the decision was to do ice checks this Saturday on the 10th, and then we're going to be doing another set of checks on the 14th, which is Wednesday of next week. And that will be when we're going to make a gate decision of whether or not we continue to try to hold our long weekend, which is the Don Kettering Memorial, or that the series will be 100% canceled.
Adamko says they prefer the ice to be around 18 inches thick, but haven't had the cold temperatures needed to create enough ice. He notes that the only other time they've had to cancel the series due to the weather was back in the 1980s. Adamko adds that if they do have to cancel, it'll be disappointing for himself and the 17 registered racing teams who were ready to go.
We had some new cars that were being built, and those people are gung-ho to get out there and try them, and other teams were doing improvements on them. So myself, I just love to get back behind the wheel and have some fun, because it's a family-based sport, and so it's very disappointing, but you can't really fight Mother Nature.
Updates about the fate of the ice racing season can be found on the Thunder Bay Autosport Club's website or social media pages. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Well, I know we all saw it yesterday that it was raining in February, and those two words, Haley, I don't know about you, they don't sit well with me. And I mean, with a temperature like a high of 4, it seems like more rain could be on its way.
It is on its way, and it is a weird feeling to have a high of 4 in February, especially in Thunder Bay. Today we had a misty morning as kind of an after effect from the rain we saw last night. It was misty until around 10 a.m. and then we saw partly to mostly cloudy skies, and we're gaining some more cloud coverage as we go into the later evening hours. Our low today was 0, but that happened at 5 a.m. So once again, an evening where we're not really going below the freezing mark, and that's what's causing those rains instead of snows that we typically see at this time of year. Now, when we look at the region, we see more rain throughout. Red Lake is actually getting a mixture of light rain and snow, and they've been seeing that all day. They're at 2 degrees right now. Certain areas have more special weather statements, such as Kenora, Dryden, Sioux Lookout, and Fort Frances, just in this whole patch here. They're under a light rain kind of warning because the ice on the ground is still frozen. So the rain that's coming down is not sinking in and it's building up. So over the night, they could see up to 25 millimeters of rain build up. So it can cause for very wet, icy roads. So definitely be careful out there. Fort Frances is also under heavy mist. They're at 6 degrees right now. So we're still seeing areas with very high temperatures for this time of year. Even when we look over onto our east side, we can see Greenstone's at 7 right now under some rain. But some even more surprising areas, although Wawa's at 6 right now, their high was 10 degrees today. So more areas in our region once again hitting double digits in February. Marathon saw a high of 9. They're now at 5 degrees. And Sault Ste. Marie is at 6, matching with Wawa. Very similar days there under cloudy skies now. So once again, we're seeing very high temperatures, lots of rain throughout the region. And in Thunder Bay tonight, we're expected to once again stay above the freezing mark. Our low is going to be 2 degrees tonight. We're having mainly cloudy skies, periods of rain later in the evening, and then we'll transition to fog patches after midnight. So more messy evenings, more rain to come. We're gonna have to start thinking about different activities and sports we can do with rain.
Haley, you must be feeling a little like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. It seems like we have the same weather forecast day after day after day as you continue to fill in for Fiona. All right, well, let's turn our attention to national news now. And of course, we've shown stories on it over the past while. The number of auto thefts across the country has really skyrocketed. Today, the federal government held a summit to try to address that. We'll tell you what was discussed right after the break.
Cracking down on auto theft means bringing law enforcement, border services, port authorities, car makers, and insurance companies together.